to the Digital Creators Podcast. For this episode, we have Aymeric and Christian. Welcome.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hello.
So, FA Concept, short for Futol Aymeric, is a unique venture founded by Aymeric himself. While many in Perth believe it began there, FA Concept actually originated in 2009 under the name Atelier Spinel, focusing on jewellery making and Aymeric's own jewellery line. Over the years, it transformed to encompass styling, makeup, model training, and other elements that define FA Concept today. The brand's horizons expanded upon its move to Perth, opening its first store on Pier Street next to the hotel where they stayed with Christian Fert, help with Christian, and also co-founder. Another store, FA Concept Couture outlet, was established in the Watertown shopping mall, offering original European pieces from top designers at discount prices alongside new collections. However, in 2023, the decision was made to close this branch and concentrate on FA Concept Vintage, Aymeric's true passion. This boutique now showcases pieces from the 17th century to the present, including luxury pre-loved items. The office space has also grown significantly, evolving from a small photography and makeup studio to taking almost half the floor to create their own creative hub. It will house a clothes hiring service for professionals, a new atelier for Aymeric's jewellery making and leather restorations, and an expanded makeup and photo studio. Additional services such as personal styling and makeovers will be reintroduced starting September 24. So this is Aymeric's introduction. Aymeric Futol is a French-born artist, has led a life filled with creativity and passion. Growing up in Paris, lived in Geneva for 7 years, and eventually settling in Perth, he was surrounded by a family that nurtured his artistic inclinations. From a young age, Aymeric showed a keen interest in the arts, creating his first garment as a preteen. Inspired by his mother and aunts who were skilled in sewing and knitting, he naturally gravitated towards the world of jewellery making. At the age of 15, Aymeric embarked on a journey to study jewellery making at the esteemed BJO private school. Under the guidance of the industry's best jewellers, he honed his skills and delved into intricacies of the craft. Recognizing the importance of experience in the competitive jewellery industry, Aymeric also took on side jobs with various brands, allowing him to gain valuable insights and expand his knowledge. His talent and dedication did not go unnoticed. Aymeric had the opportunity to create pieces for Fashion Week, collaborating with renowned designers at the tender age of 16. He's also ventured into designing custom pieces for Swarovski and boutique worldwide. Balancing his studies with his commitment to the industry, Aymeric worked tirelessly, accumulating invaluable experience by collaborating with over 10 companies throughout his 3 years of schooling. As his reputation grew, Aymeric was entrusted with creating jewellery for prestigious brands such as Marni, Louis Vuitton, Paget, Hermes, and Van Cleef and Arpels. In 2009, he decided to establish his own jewellery company, launching his first silver jewellery collection. With the help of a dedicated team, Aymeric combined the affordability of solid silver with the finesse of fine jewellery techniques. However, fate had a different plan for Aymeric. In 2011, he was diagnosed with keratonicus, a severe eye condition that significantly impaired his vision. Despite this setback, Aymeric found a solace in the fashion industry, which proved to be more manageable for him. He began styling for brands, photographers, and magazines such as Cosmopolitan and Fashion TV. In addition, he ventured into managing a music band and opening a modelling school alongside other industry professionals. With the modelling school set to relaunch in 2025, Aymeric's career continued to evolve. He's currently teaching models to walk for Harvey James Management, while also co-owning and founding FA Concept, Cure Magazine, Atelier Spinel alongside Christian Fert. Known for his bold and colourful style, Aymeric has graced the pages of numerous prestigious magazines and newspapers, including GQ, Harper's Bazaar, and Vogue during fashion weeks and events in Sydney and Perth. As the business expands, Aymeric is venturing into new territories and overseas projects. With over 20 years of experience in the luxury and fashion industry, he continues to pursue and push boundaries and explore new avenues. In addition to his artistic pursuits, Aymeric has also acquired diplomas in strategic and operational marketing, makeup, image consulting, and most recently a bachelor's degree in graphic design from the renowned SAE Institute. Aymeric's thirst for knowledge and dedication to mastering each endeavor he embarks on it's a testament to his unwavering passion. As he forges ahead, there's no doubt that his journey has only just begun. And now we've got Christians. So it's a shorter one than
less prestigious.
Christian, a Geneva native with an Italian mother, had a diverse upbringing. He attended both Swiss and French schools, experiencing both public and private education. During his summers, he attended a boarding school in, how do you say this one, Christian?
Garmisch-Partenkirchen.
Bayern, where he focused on learning German. Later, he pursued higher education in the United States, studying English courses at college in Berkeley. After completing his education, Christian served in the Swiss military as an arm of Carabiniers. He then pursued further studies, earning a degree in law and bachelor's degree in business administration with a focus on marketing and finance. To enhance his language skills, he attended a language school in Munich, Germany, where he also worked part-time in logistics. Christian's career took him to various places. He moved to Chicago, where he worked in the tourism industry, focusing on sales and IT. Eventually, he returned to Geneva to work in the family business within the tourism sector. During his time, he also started a placement agency with a former partner. As his career progressed, Christian transitioned to the field of human resources. He gained valuable experience in a newly launched business before securing a job as a payroll officer in a private bank in Germany. After 7 years in this role, Christian met Aymeric, who had started his own company. Christian joined a small accounting and payroll firm as the manager of 2 teams in different states. Together, Christian and Aymeric embarked on several trips to Australia, particularly to Perth, to explore new opportunities. They eventually settled in Perth, but faced numerous challenges in their business endeavours. Starting with a boutique in an old Salvation Army headquarters, they developed a European concept store. Christian's skills in accounting, payroll, and logistics proved invaluable, while Aymeric's guidance helped Christian transition into the fashion industry, expanding their business into vintage and styling. Christian's involvement in the fashion industry led him to frequent travels between Australia and Europe. He attended Australian Fashion Week multiple times in Sydney, including 2017, 2019, 2022, and 2024. The business continued to evolve, progressing from a concept store to a couture outlet and eventually becoming a vintage boutique. Christian and Aymeric had carefully planned each step in defining their business as it stands today. With new ventures on the horizon, Christian eagerly anticipates the exciting developments that lie ahead in the coming months and years. Wow, so yeah, quite a story for both of you.
Long story.
But I think, I didn't realize that you were starting and working in creating jewelry. That's very interesting. And Christian, it looks like you studied quite a lot in lots of different various areas, but eventually you guys came together and created this store. So there's a lot of background to this store that people probably don't know about, and it's a very intricate and interesting store. So I'd love to just hear more maybe about that background and how it all came together.
Sure.
So
what do you want to know?
Yeah, I think maybe we'll start with the jewelry. So that became your main focus, and then you had some issues with you were diagnosed with an eyesight, and I guess that's very important for creating jewelry, is it?
Yes, I think
You need your eyes.
it's kind of the main thing.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I had to stop doing jewelry, at least making them myself.
Yeah.
And I had to find not passion, but other things I could do. And I think that's the way went into fashion a bit more. I always love fashion, but I choose to go more into jewelry, and just life led me to be more in fashion afterwards.
So you no longer make jewelry anymore?
I
but
still do
to do?
make jewelry now because I'm better since 2014, and I'm just doing more like custom pieces now and alteration or reparation for customers. And from September, hopefully, starting a new jewelry line again.
Okay. And what draws your eye in jewelry? What are you most sort of passionate about, particularly in jewelry?
I think for me, it's the techniques behind creating jewelry more so, and I'm passionate about history in general, so history of jewelry, history of fashion, so trying to not replicate but be inspired by what previous jewelers in the past have done, and I think that's where I source my inspiration from. So
Do you have a workshop where you create jewelry, or is it?
Yes.
How does it work?
So I have a workshop upstairs, and so yeah, I have all my tools and all the things I need to create. So
Because what I imagine is you have to wear like protective gear, and then you have to hate metals.
yes,
That's all happening upstairs? Is
so
it?
it's all happening upstairs. So yeah, you have to have put some protective gear depending on what you're doing. So if you're doing soldering, for sure you need to be a bit more protected. But there is some types that don't require anything specific. But it's quite an interesting, I think, process to start with a piece of metal which is flat and create something with volumes. And
What sort of materials and metals are you mostly using?
so silver, gold, and then whatever people order.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, or even less precious metal, can be brass as well.
And Christian, is it your what sort of brought you into fashion particularly? Because you have sort of your background it's not all fashion focused. So what drew you into
So
that?
absolutely, I think I always kind of liked fashion because my mom was Italian, so she was bringing a lot of things for us as kids from Italy to wear. So we were inclined to be a bit different than the standard kids that wore the things that you bought, in Geneva, Switzerland. So that was already a little bit of, being a bit different and appreciating the Italian fashion that was at that time really fashion forward, and they were a bit the first one who pushed kind of the trends and set the trends in the ready to wear, meaning that everybody could buy a bit the same if they wanted to. And then later, when I met Aymeric, because I was kind of dressing quite classical, also because I work in the banking industry where you don't have so much.
Boring or like?
No, not boring, but just
Traditional.
and especially private banking, it's you don't have really so much choice, because there is a bit this idea that you would wear clothes a certain way, because if people see you, the clients, they feel that they're safe in this bank because people dress elegant but discreet, not flashy colors, not fancy patterns, traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it was a German bank, so it was a little bit more original than maybe a Swiss one. Nonetheless, there was a lot of, almost like in the handbook of the employees, that's what you have to wear. So it's you couldn't do so much. But at the time when I met Aymeric, I kind of do a big wardrobe with him, shuffle, and then got rid of a lot of things, oversized, and a lot of things that were maybe not really so flattering to my body shape.
Mm-hmm.
And with him, I kind of discover
Color.
a whole different,
As well.
a lot of different things, which I had, but they were quite discreet. And I would say also because of some life-changing moment in my life, I became more not caring of what other people thought, and then I did a little bit more dare myself to do more creativity.
Experimentation.
And I remember from the beginning in the banking industry to when the years I left, I had colleagues always telling me, the fashion Christian and everything, because they saw this evolution a little bit to be a bit more trendy, but have my own style, respecting the codes of the bank.
Yeah.
And then I went to a small business where you had to be professional, but there is so much strictness in the dress code. So because I was a manager, I was handling 2 teams in 2 different states in Switzerland, and then visiting clients, but it's not like on a day-to-day basis. Then it's more between colleagues. So there was way more options to be a little bit how you wanted and be more colorful and different type of shoes, and etc., etc. And then still narrowing down a little bit your style when you go to see clients, because you're representing a brand, a business, and numbers are always thought as boring. So somehow you kind of look a bit the part.
Yeah.
So people take you seriously, because let's say if you're too flamboyant, they would wonder, are you good in accounting or in payrolling, or will you be the right thing? So that's a bit the evolution. And then we moved to Perth, and then that was kind of a next level.
Yeah, so I guess even though you were in the narrower fines of what you had to wear for a bank, you were still thinking, you still had that thought process of what the best things to wear, but then maybe when you're out of that scene, you could be more expressive. So when you came to Perth, was there a change in how you were wearing clothes here? Because here, in Australia, there's not a fashion scene so much.
So for us, I think we continue to be ourselves, but I would say mostly at the beginning the influence was the climate. So suddenly, I don't know, we had 50 coats which we wear throughout the so many months of cold weather in Europe, and you come to Australia, and then your coats you use 3 or 4 in the season, and lots of coats you never use them. And so there was a shift of fabrics and type
Seasons,
of coats but jackets, and then even the shoes all changed a bit to the climate of here. And then it became a bit more free, because somehow there is a bit less layering. So when you wear only one piece, then it can be already very colorful, etc. Then when you do the layering, you still have a bit of codes of fashion that you want to respect sometimes. So I think that changed quite a bit for me. And with Aymeric, we did, the first year we arrived to Perth, a lot of networking, and somehow it was also our persona represented this new brand that we were bringing here, and people were wondering, who are these guys?
Yes.
They speak with a bit of an accent, they're different, they're dressed
wear a lot of colours.
so colorful, but also just very stylish, different. And that attracted a lot of attention. And only when we notice, you go in a networking event, and then you see almost a queue of people, and I don't want to be pretentious at all, but they want to talk to us because they're just curious, but in a nice way. Not and I do believe that lots of things that I did were thanks to Aymeric, a bit being around him and all what he did, that inspired me slowly, bit by bit, to be also more myself, with a bit of his experience and direction, but slowly, more and more, he's impressed by my own things without too much, asking, should I do this and this, which I did more years ago, and now I'm just doing my looks and everything, and very often he's kind of, wow, that's very cool, and even for events, sometime I decide a bit what I want to do, or give a bit my thoughts, and then from there he bounced back and propose other things. But you have to talk a little bit about your.
Yeah, how did you change up your style when you came to Perth? Because I guess, again, you can't layer so much here because of the climate, but...
I didn't change my style so much, except for sure for when it's the warm season. But I think there is always way to layer, and you just have to layer with different fabrics and different type of materials. But for me, it was more because, for sure, representing a business that had a physical location, to compare to when I was doing services where my atelier was and workshop was in a hidden place where people could come, but I was not like promoting the business for this side. So for us, when we're going to events, you want to dress a bit differently, a bit more apart. Sometimes we're wearing some of the stuff we have in store, so with different pieces from different places in Europe or in Australia as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably the change that we're thinking when we're going somewhere, to dress intentionally different, to do some networking and to be our own branding campaign in some kind of way.
Yeah, because I think it's a mix between styling yourself to fit the event you're going to or the place you're going to, and then also representing yourself. So in Perth, I guess the scene isn't as vibrant, over in Europe. Did you find, for both of you yourselves, like maybe at the beginning wanting to fit that at all? You were completely just like, we just want to show ourselves?
Oh no, I don't believe in fitting. I never did, and Christians not so much either.
Yeah.
And I think that for us it was defeating the purpose to try to fit in. We're not from the same country anyway.
Yeah.
So we want to still have our own personalities and showcase who we are. So I know some people that do that when they came to Australia as well from Europe. But for us it was like, if you want to have a unique point of sale in a way, then you have to showcase it and show it to people, because there is no better business card than yourself.
Yes.
That's why when he said people were coming to us, I think it's as well because we dress because we like certain things and we enjoy dressing up. And then certain people are curious, why did we wear that? Or why are you dressed
it's
like
like
this?
a conversation
Or,
topic.
yes,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Oh, okay. And where is Australian fashion now? How has it changed maybe since you guys arrived? How does it compare to the European scene? And I know you were just in Japan, Aymeric. Where are we today? To be honest.
If I have to be
honest.
Quite late, I believe. It did change quite a bit since we moved in here in 2000. We came here the first time in 2013, so it has evolved. But I think the biggest difference, I think Australia is still watching what other countries are doing, and very much sometimes inspired by US. And I think it's more about that. I think the Australian fashion scene still have to find their own identity, and find where they can be different and sell it to the world. There is a few like famous Australian designers that are already internationally renowned, but
which sort of designers?
So you have Zimmerman, Ida Ackerman, a bit of Camilla, Dion Lee, but he's not going so well at the moment. But Dion Lee was quite as well renowned, and we had from Western Australia as well Aurelio Costarella, that was here for like almost 25 years or a bit more.
And they're getting well received internationally?
I think yes, because I think they were able to find some type of niche market and stick to a good branding, and as well providing quality and nice design. And I think it's about that, not wanting to be similar to another brand. And sometimes I have the feeling there is too much of this copy paste. This thing works, let's copy it 10 times. Rather than saying, it's nice, but I want to be different. I want to be the only one. But at the same time, it's a bit more niche, more tricky, so it might take a bit more time to be accepted. And our type of business to be like this for us in Perth is that we are a bit different. So it took more time to pick up and for people to understand and to be open to it. But at the same time, I don't think we have much competition, at least in Perth, in what we are doing, even though there is other people doing vintage and pre-love, luxury pre-love, but I think it's all about being unique, and that's what I think is important in fashion. And fashion again is a way of expressing yourself and being different as well. So I think that's what we're lacking now.
Yeah. What do you think?
So while you were talking, I was thinking of the different time I went to Sydney Fashion Week, and we went to see a few time Indigenous Fashion Project, which is a collective of Aboriginal designer from different regions of Australia who are specialized in different fields, from underwear, swimwear to lingerie to loungewear, etc. And I saw a very interesting evolution from very typical patterns, which are sometimes a bit difficult to be really commercialized to a broader audience, because they are very, they goes with a certain type of people, to having beautiful patterns but integrating them into a more today's world type of clothes. So
I think a good mix of traditional and westernized fashion, which make it easier to sell abroad.
Yeah.
And to sell just to Australian broader audience. And I think I've seen this evolution in 2024, and I believe that that's a bit the trend we've seen from following some socials of Africa, where there is a lot of amazing designers that have their African roots, but they're evolving to something that is required by more people, because I do believe that the local want to be more fashionable on an international scene, and possibly the international want to buy the fashion of these local countries and local people, but they don't want to do cultural appropriation. So they want to buy something, but they still feel like, let's say, as a white person, I can wear it.
Yeah.
And I'm not ridiculous or not, stepping into shaky ground. So I think that there is an evolution all over the world in that sense, and I do believe that Australia is definitely a place in this respect.
To embrace that.
Yeah.
I think as well in Australia that there is a lot of talented people, but they are not always, I think the most talented people are not always the one that we see the most. And sometimes there are younger designers, smaller designers from different places in Australia. And I think the fashion scene needs to grow as well, to give them a place to shine, because I think they can be the future of fashion, but they need to have some room, and people have to start to say, okay, I want to purchase local, I want to purchase a local, a small designer. And in the mentality, I think in Australia, in the overall, I have the feeling that sometimes people care too much about what's the brand, how much it costs, is it expensive? Rather than, okay, I can have this young designer, it's unique, I want it. And maybe it's a bit pricey because it's made in Australia and there is only one person making it. But as well, you help the industry grow and you help a young designer emerge. And I think that's what people need to focus on now as well.
I think it's quite difficult to be a brand in Australia or here in Perth as well. Like, it's so important, that community aspect, to buy, local designers and support. But I feel like it's so few people in the fashion scene here that want to do that. So it's quite a struggle for the young designers here.
I think it is, and part of it is probably being sometimes it's a bit everywhere in the world, but sometimes it's a bit cliquish as well. So there is not a lot of room for people to go in the community if you don't make your way, force your way in, or some people that helps you go in. And I think that's a pattern that needs to be as well broken, and it has to change so Australia can grow in this matter as well, because it's not a lack of talent, for sure there is a lot of talents, but they need to be seen and they need to have a stage
and
shine.
I would add that over the years I do believe that as a small business with two owners, foreigners, we gave a lot of opportunities to Western Australian fashion brands, small ones, sometimes one lady, one guy alone doing their thing, but we give them opportunities in our different stores to showcase their fashion, and some actually were quite successful in the time they were in our stores. I think we helped more than 25 brands in the long run, and when I think of it, I haven't seen so many other places, Australian, doing that for their own people in their own town.
Yeah.
So that's a bit surprising, but at the same time, for example, when we were in Watertown, which was, an outlet center, people would come in our store, pay full price for a new collection of a Western Australian designer. So it's not a question only of price. If people like it and they find that the guy is here and he's doing amazing things, I buy it and I come back. So it's not a problem, but it's just that sometimes when you have just a little atelier workshop somewhere, but you cannot pay for upfront, face fronting space, how do people know you? You go small markets, but markets people want discount. Sometimes it's windy, the conditions are, and then you're just there for 1 day or 2 days. Next week it's not there anymore. So how do people know you? You have to have kind of a physical location somewhere. Sometimes it's difficult. Sure, there is the online, but online, when you are not known, how do people start to buy you? It's very difficult. So while we did this for Western Australian designer, and we did that as well, going to Sydney Fashion Week and wearing people from Western Australia to showcase that, in Australia, there are great people in Western Australia designing cool stuff with new fabrics, funky design, original cuts, and they're there, existing. But it's true that maybe they cannot afford to go to Sydney and have a runway because it costs a lot of money, so they cannot do that. So
and as well, some of the brands we work with towards the years, sometimes we are selling quite well with us, but as a brand, you need more places to sell your garments. You cannot have only one store in one city selling your garments. So it's the reason why I see it needs to be a collective decision from people to say, okay, we want to do something for our community in Australia. We want to have we have our big brands, but maybe every season we have a new designer from our city or from somewhere in Australia. I think that's where it needs to start as well, because some of the designers we worked with sometimes got discouraged and stopped because, one shop is nice, but you don't live with one shop purchasing your stuff and a bit of online sales here and there. So I think that's one of the change that happened as well.
I think COVID was definitely also a hit on a lot of people, but definitely quite a few gave up for different reasons, and sometimes they moved to other places because they thought that maybe there are other opportunities, and sometimes they just moved to a different job, and then fashion became like a side job. But the problem is it's very difficult to run a business on the side when you're already working full time and then you have a family, etc., etc. So I think the one committed to do full time what they're doing, not so many survive on the long run.
Yeah, that's true. And I think as well that nice thing about Australia, and I think sometimes people underestimate the fact that sometimes people say, Australian, they don't know about certain things related to fashion. But as well, on the other side, I do believe that they are very willing to learn, but you have to give them the opportunity to learn something, not thinking, they don't know, so I just give them what they know. But you need to take a risk as well and try to bring them a bit more knowledge about certain things. And for us, we notice with our customer base, they want to know and they are happy to understand the story of a piece. What's the difference between certain type of materials and why this piece is more expensive than this one. So as well, I think there is nice things about Australia, but you have to use all these nice things and try to put them together so it becomes something interesting.
I was surprised when we started. Our shop was mostly for women with a bit of men, and we noticed right from the start that actually the men were kind of daring a little bit more sometimes than the women, but because we had a smaller section of men, sometimes we didn't dare so much for the men, even in colors and everything, because we thought, ooh la la, it will be, you know, difficult.
Much, yeah.
And actually, they were willing to go the extra miles, and sometimes funky colors and patterns. And especially in Watertown, lots of men bought colorful things, cuts which were not only tailored perfect to show their body, but also funky shapes and everything. So definitely that was I find a big discovery that a lot of men, even though they're traditional, they were willing to add a bit of funkiness in their lifestyle, a bit of color, sometimes new things that they didn't wear before. So we saw this definitely quite a bit. And now slowly with vintage, there is this trend as well. So it is very interesting.
Do you think the city of Perth should be doing more to help young designers?
That's another topic. I think yes, not only for young designer, but I think fashion as well can sustain in a city such as Perth only if there is a lot of things around. And I think it's lack of activation at the moment. It was actually a bit better a few years back, and I think with COVID and a few things it started to go down a bit. So I think there is still a lot of things to do. And the issue I think in Perth in this matter is that a lot of things happened in the suburbs, not enough in the city, which makes Perth to compare to the other cities in Australia a bit different. So the city center is a bit empty to compare to the suburbs, or when you go in certain fancy suburbs where they have a lot of store. So they still have to find a way to bring back the brands in the city, bring back smaller businesses, and it doesn't have to be old-fashioned. It can be like from different type of businesses that can activate the city, because if there is more people that feel safer. If there is more things, when you drive to the city, then you don't think, oh, okay, I will waste my time to just see 2 stores. It's like in like most city you go and you expect to have like certain things, and as well for tourists, I think if you go into Perth at the moment, in the city there is 1 or 2 shop is empty almost. So you come, if it's your first time in Perth, it's not the best image. You might not want to come back because you're like, oh, okay, invest in the city, there is not much to do.
Yeah.
Even though there is new things opening, but I think it's more venues like bars and restaurants that keeps opening. So in this matter, we are quite lucky, but I think it lacks of diversity and things to do in the city, for sure.
And I would say that when you look at some of the malls in the city center, there are so many empty spaces that you go through a mall and half of the thing is with a sticker. I mean, it's not very appealing. So you go there just because it's maybe your way to go home or to go to work, but you don't even look.
Yeah.
And then you forget to look. And then even if there is a new little shop opening, you don't even notice for maybe 6 months or 2 years, because it's a new shop alone, plenty of other shops empty with stickers. And I do believe that does refrain people from coming, because they say, anyhow, the brands, I can get them in the suburbs in the shopping malls. So I don't need to go in the city for the brands. So what does the city has to do to attract small businesses which are a bit unique and that people want to come to visit, because there are quite a few, and they are not anywhere else.
Yeah, I think like for international people coming here who are maybe into fashion, I think they would be interested in seeing like local designers and local fashion, and I think these local designers have so much to, they can bring a lot of energy to the city and for those spaces that need to be filled. I know Activate Perth has helped a couple of brands here. I think there was a small I think staple streetwear, luxury streetwear brand called Privacy, and then there was a few other stores that were helped by Activate Perth. But I think I'd like to see, which is like a great start. But yeah, I definitely want to see more like local designers in the city. Obviously, it's tough because rent like maybe the building needs to make money as well. But I mean, if it's an empty store, there should be some sort of system.
Yes, some of the building or places in the city have been empty for as long as I remember the first time we came here in 2013, they were already empty. So empty for being empty, even if you make way less money, it's always better for the city to have something than rather than nothing.
Yeah, because
some buildings in the city have been empty for almost 20 years.
And
Yeah.
I believe that strangely, the fierce competition next to each other attracts lots of people. And when you look at the fast food market, they all stick to each other, close to each other. Because when one comes for this one, then there is that one and that one. And it's the same in fashion. You have to have a lot of fashion stores close to each other. Lots of other cities in the world have sometime a district of new brands. And when they become famous, they move out and they go to the bigger, area, the big streets with the fancy name and the fancy stores. But you have to start somewhere. And here, we had a bit the feeling, a moment, there was a bit of a vibe in Northbridge in some places where there were quite a few quirky boutiques, but it looks like they didn't really last so many. So you're wondering, where would I advise someone to go in Perth, in a place where you can have like 6 or 7 or 10 different things interesting in a row?
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
if there
too
is.
scattered, isn't it?
Yes, as well. And to give you an example, we have quite a few customers that comes to our shop that have a good purchasing power, but they come to see us only. They park in front or they park in the Wilson car park in the back. They do their purchase, they leave. So if there were more things around, maybe they would be willing to say, okay, I'm doing a shopping spree in the city, see a few shops around, and spend more money. So I think there is a lot of missed opportunity, and I think a lot of people do that. They go in one store they like, but then they don't do anything around because there is nothing that sparks their interest around.
And if the distance is long enough, because the people are used to use always their car, to do multiple car park in a city, it's so complicated, expensive, and not really user friendly. Finally, they do only one spot, and then that's it. Their day to the city was that place.
Yes.
And I do believe that makes it complicated, and that's why I come back to the idea of like a district where there would be a development of a lot of things, because people would know, okay, this is the place where there is new things. Let's check it out. I park my car, I can go, and then there are quite a few, not just one, quite a few.
Yes.
All together, different things, male, female, kids, more elegant, more casual, but quite a few brands. And if you don't have that, it's very difficult to attract, because again, you go in the shopping malls or in the malls in the city, mostly the big brands which are in the suburbs are still there.
Yeah.
With maybe one or twice sometime a small little business that is new, Activate Perth or not. But it's not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah.
How would people know if normally on the day-to-day basis, let's say they come to the city, park in the towers where they have their office, how do they discover this new little shop somewhere if they don't pass by there? So it's, in a way, I think there needs to be also something done maybe from on the side of the city to promote all these new little businesses, and have like a platform where people could say, I'm in the city, what's new?
Yeah.
And see a little bit, okay, 2 or 3 new shops opened the last 6 months.
Even in the building that the city does own, there is quite a few in the city, and most of the space of the city are actually empty. And they've been as well empty for years. So even the space they could activate because they don't have to rely on the landlord or someone else deciding. But then I think sometimes the red tape is so heavy as well to be able to do these things. So I don't think it's not feasible. I think it's feasible, but then they need to lighten up a bit the red tape and the process of doing things. Even more when you consider that W is one of the wealthiest states in Australia. So it's not a question of money. It's not a question of trying to find money. It's just about now doing things so Perth can become a city like the others in Australia.
Yeah.
Because the population is quite big if you consider it, but then it's still a small city at the same time.
And I do believe that in businesses, when you start small, you should have kind of an ease from the system to let you do business, because the most important is that you spend your time doing business, not doing admin of the complexity of the system to know how finally you can do business.
Yeah.
And I think when you're small, you're one man show or one woman show, it has to be simple. If it's too complicated, change of use, and then all the laws and everything of retail with hundreds of pages, because the mall, when they send you a contract, it's 70, 80 pages. So it's a nightmare for someone who starts, scared that she might do a mistake, and then consequences are heavy. So sometimes people don't just start because they say no,
Yeah.
it will be too difficult. And I do believe that for small businesses it should have like a fast track, a bit simpler,
Like a lower
knowing
barrier for entry,
knowing that
yeah.
it's a bit more limited in time, because you don't want that the bigger business are disadvantaged. But at the same time, bigger business, they might have lawyers, insurance specialists, a lot of different professionals that they can have as a help in the business or outside that they can pay, which a small business cannot.
And I think that's one of the issues as well, because I think Perth rely a lot on the big money of the big corporations,
Yes,
such
yes.
as the mining companies. But at the same time, they have nice offices in the city, but people don't come in the city to visit the mining company
Yeah,
or to see
exactly,
what the building
exactly.
look like. So you need all other things around, so people
Yeah.
can come for that as well.
Yeah, we have so much like wealth in this economy here, but
For
it's
sure, yeah.
it's not like we need to use it to create, I think, experiences. So if we create that district where there's fashion, and we sort of think about how maybe someone's day will look like when they come into the city as an experience. So coming to that district, like I think you want people to spend time in the city and
Create experiences.
to enjoy the time in the city. But for me, and as you were saying, it's quite stressful, like find parking, and then you have to pay for parking, expensive.
Yes.
They could catch the train, but even if there was an area maybe a little bit outside or where it's easier, come look at these younger designers and new fashion brands. Maybe there's some nice cafes around. Like think of how all these elements could sort of work together to create a nice experience.
Yeah,
something
I
like
think
this.
it's about the experience, as you said, is that people need to experience it. And when you were talking about the car park price, as well, it's difficult to compete in the city with most of the places in the suburbs. When you go to certain shopping mall, not all of them, but most of them, sometimes you have free car park. So when in the city you have to pay quite a pricey amount for not so many things to do in the city, then you're like, okay, you don't want to pay just so for such an expensive price for just to see one store or just to see one thing because you want to go there. So some people are like, oh, maybe I don't go so often. We have even some clients of ours that, okay, because they come for us, so they try to come when they know they've seen a few pieces that they like, they put some time them aside, and they come all at once for these pieces rather than like coming every, I don't know, once a month or every weeks. So I think there is a few things that can be done, but then you have to start somewhere.
And
Difficult
going
to
back
do,
to the idea of a district or sometime a building, we've seen in European cities, sometime old building which are kind of vacated could be saying, okay, this is the fashion district. People can have a space there only when they're a new brand. They can stay only so many years because after we expect them to develop their brand, so then they have to move out and leave space to new ones. And they're like sometime like a concours, how do you say, a contest.
Yeah, okay,
And
yes.
the winning one has maybe the prime location at the entrance, and he can stay a certain time, and then he has to move to give the next contestants to win. And this kind of spaces, because possibly it's a building owned by the city or by the state, if it's empty anyhow, it has just a land cost, but doesn't really do anything. So you could do something like this and say, okay, we want to have like 10 brands, 15 brands in this space, and people would come here. And we did it ourselves as business owner. We went to city and went to these places because in the same place we could see so many different creative, and they have help to export, to source fabrics, to do a lot of things, because again, the strengths of community.
Yeah.
And so I think there is really options to do things, because there are a lot of creative in Western Australia, because there are good schools. We've seen quite a few runways over the years from TAFE, from different others, so from
Curtin,
Curtin, and from south of the river, north of the river, they are really very good people. But you know,
and they all end up either going on the East Coast or overseas, because in Perth there is no opportunities, or very little opportunities.
Or they do
creative,
just a state job, and then you know they're creative on weekends or night,
yeah,
because they cannot afford to do that full time.
I suppose there was that rise of vintage markets in fashion and everywhere. I think over COVID, just past COVID, there was like an influx of all these startup
that's good. I think
vintage
that part is
fashion,
nice, yeah.
and it did show that there is interest in fashion or vintage fashion for these pop-up events. Like so many people coming in there. Like
You can go in one place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that was a model that has worked and is still working. I see them popping up all the time, and usually it's quite crowded. So, what are your thoughts on that movement? And do you think there could be an element of that used to some sort of district? Maybe it could even be after like 6 p.m. when there's free parking in the city of Perth parking here. There could be some sort of event market or something like that.
I think that could be. In most cities there is like flea markets or vintage markets if they want to, and cities are willing to give the space for this market to happen. For sure it could be a good activation when people come, try to find things, and maybe because there is other things around, discover other places as well around. Every way there is to activate the city is good from the moment it brings people, but it have to be like people that have a genuine interest into finding something, so it can serve the city as well, so people don't not just come to hang out around. I mean, and yeah, attracting these people. And we noticed when we did a vintage market a few months ago in Claremont, and for us it was the first time we were doing a specialized vintage market, and it was so good for us, and we are able to meet a lot of people, and people that don't come in the city for various reasons. And for us it was nice, and we will do it again, I think, in November. So that's the proof as well that people actually are looking for things, but sometimes they don't know where to look for it. So when you have this conglomerate of things happening at the same time, or businesses coming together, then people like, oh, okay, I'll go there, maybe I find something, maybe not, but they already come in the idea that they might want to find something.
Yeah.
Which also is already a bit of a different way of approaching things, not just coming. Sometimes the city does events, sometimes it's free events, but they don't think, oh, will it bring like business to the coffees, will it bring business to the hotels, will it bring business to the stores, which most of the time it doesn't, except maybe if you're very close by.
Yeah.
So I think there is a lack of maybe branding of
like
the demographic you're targeting
process,
as well, for it to be like useful for the city. I mean,
yeah, I think even with, I'm just looking at Activate Perth, and they do have this fill this space or find your space, and they've listed some here. So it looks like they're starting to think about that sort of thing. But I think they're kind of thinking about it in terms of like one specific space at a time, not an experience. Like,
so we talk a few times with Activate Perth, and I think it's a nice initiative because everything that can bring back some activation in the city again is welcome. Then probably there is a bit of lack of efficiency in the way of doing it for me personally. But yeah, you have to, and then I know it's difficult because they have still to deal with the landlords. Then sometimes there is an in between real estate agent, again in between So all of this is slowing the process quite a lot because you have to go through activate first. Sometimes then they go to the real estate agent, and then the real estate agent go to the landlord, and vice versa. Then the landlord goes back to the real estate agent. The real estate agent goes back.
Yeah, so it's complicated.
So if you want to do like a quick pop-up, because you, I don't know, for example, you want to do something for Christmas, you want to do a quick pop-up, the process can take months already just to try to do it. Again, this red tape thing that can be lightened up, so it can happen.
And we did experience it, so it's not like we're just talking general things. Couple of years, one after the other, we did the thing, and every time it took so much time, and it was so slow, and the prices change, and then they say yes, then they don't know, and it takes forever, and you know, I think.
And then you just give up. It's okay.
Small business, they take opportunity. It has to be quick. A little bit like a person who goes in a store, they find something they like, they buy it. You know, if you have to say, okay, I have to come back because the size is not here, it will come in 6 weeks, maybe no, then you don't buy it anymore, or you just change your mind, do something else. And I think it's the difficulty of these things, that they have to be a bit more efficient and give all the opportunities for people to do the thing. Then I understand that you want some collateral, you want to be sure that the person, you know, will pay electricity and do certain things, but nonetheless, sometimes it's a heavy process, and it discourages people because not everybody is born as a business owner, and when you want to start something, sometimes you have to learn so many things. So if already the admin is so complicated, then it might, you know, deter you from just launching your idea.
Yeah, I always think the problem with like the creative industry here is we're already making so much money from mining or like these mineral resources industries, so people don't really care to create these experiences for the everyday person. So it's like, why should they care? Well, I mean, like tourism is a big industry as well, but also for the people living here. But I mean, people are already, you know, buying houses, so why?
For me as well, it's more as well. It comes back as well to having a sense of pride. It should be pride to be from Perth, and most of the people, when I talk to them, I don't say all of them because I don't know all people from Perth, but most of the one I've met, they say, "Oh, but there is nothing to do in Perth. Why are you here?" And I always say, if no one starts to bring something, then there will be nothing forever. So I think it's about that as well. For me, it's time as well to start for people to try to create this sense of pride from being from Perth, not saying, oh, it's better in Europe, oh, but why are you not on the East Coast? There is more things to do. Yeah, there is more things to do because there is more people doing things. So as well, I think it comes back to that. I think you should be proud to be from Perth and proud to be do business here and build businesses here. And I think that's what is lacking probably the most, is that people feel that if you are creative, you shouldn't be in Perth, which is, I think, the wrong thing and the wrong way, because again, Christian said that Perth have like some of the most sometimes well-known schools for certain creative area in this hemisphere of the world, but then they have to go somewhere else to find jobs. So there is a lot of things that are not making sense in a way, and it comes back because if there is no opportunity and people keep saying, oh, there is nothing to do in Perth again, and I heard that 100 times, maybe 1,000 times, where people say that, and I was like, it's true in a way, but because nobody wants to do something. And when I say nobody, I'm doing a generality,
and I have the feeling that sometimes it's also not true. It's just the fact that it's so localized that actually, because there is no central intelligent place where you could gather the information and just say, what do I do this weekend? And then I Google it, and then I say, okay, on the city of Perth or state of Western Australia, in your area, there are markets, there are activations, there are, a photographer showing things. I mean, it can be so many different fields, because people have different interests. Not everybody is interested in fashion, not everybody is interested in photography, not everybody is interested in art, but there are so many things happening. But if you don't know, or you don't know how to look for it, I mean, for me, the purpose, it has to be really, really simple. Because if people do already this effort to say, I want to do something with my kids, what can I do? And it's not only just free stuff. It can be anything. And I do believe that there is a lack of centralized information system where you could find everything in one place and say anything you want and have different filter and say, okay, I want to do this or that, or maybe just say open, okay, just Friday 16, what is on? And then you see everything, from the movies to jazz thing to anything, and all in one place you could find everything, and people would then feel
I agree with that, but that's for the part where maybe sometimes you have to pay to go to this place. There is a lot of things actually culturally happening in Perth and about the art, but when I was thinking about the cities as well, as you said, the experience of living or visiting a city is not always to pay, it's just to enjoy and watch.
No, but
you have
I
to
mean,
have something.
Let's say an opening of a gallery next to maybe a premiere of a film. Okay, one is paying, maybe one is free. It doesn't mean that everything is paying or free. It's just a question that for a certain date you want to do something, you're a bit, you lack inspiration because you've been to restaurant, you've did this and that. What do I do this Saturday night or this Sunday afternoon that I can do with my kids or with my partner? What can I do? And then you go on this page and then you see and you find.
Yeah, sometimes I agree that it's difficult to find the information, and sometimes you discover
too late.
Days after that something happened, you're like, I would have loved to go there. But then you didn't know about it because you never seen it anywhere.
And I would say that something that we notice a lot when we moved to Australia was different from Europe is here there are sales all the time. So how do you create for a small young brand an environment where people actually pay full price when everything is on sale all the time everywhere? Big brand, small brand, medium brand, shopping centers, everywhere, sales. So when a new designer starts, he needs to sell his garment, her garment full price, because if they're on sale all the time, he won't make enough money to prepare the new collection, to buy the new garments, to be inspired and maybe travel to see, okay, what can I do for next year? And these kind of things, people are just so focused on, I have to make a deal, I have to find a bargain, that they forget that creativity has a cost. And it's a cost all the way through, from the moment you think of it, you're behind your piece of paper or your iPad or computer to draw your idea, to the moment you look for fabrics, for buttons, for metals, where do I look for them and everything, to producing locally possibly. And then, do people locally buy what you're doing? No, they buy online, cheap stuff, because it's discounted. So I think that's also something that there is a responsibility of the system to push this understanding to people. If you really buy local, the system will work. But if you buy local only to showcase on your social media because you went to buy a coffee, I'm sorry, that's not enough. That's not enough to help these creative people of many different industries who need recurring business. They cannot have one shot because they just do an opening, 100 people show up, and then the next couple of weeks it's just 2 or 3 clients. It has to be ongoing, and it has to be like this for a lot of retail businesses, but designers from many different brands and everything, because always these discounts is a nightmare.
And sometimes businesses don't have the choice to do this discount because at the end of the day, if they have employees, or they have like a high rent to pay, they still have to have the money at the end of the month. So sometimes they are kind of obliged to do it and forced to do it at a certain point in the month. So we don't personally do sales, but sometimes you're like, oh, okay, maybe because we sold a bit less, seeing this month, maybe we do a little sales, but then you start to go into this like vicious cycle of like, okay, if you start to do it, then people or even customer of yours will think, oh, okay, they're on sale anyway, every end of the month or every so many months, so we wait. But then you have no income in between, so you have to think about all these things, and everybody likes to find bargains and find deals, myself included, but I think they still need a bit, we need to have
Change
more
the
education
culture a little
on
bit,
like, okay, there is a time where you can find these deals, but sometimes you have to think, okay, is it worth the price? Yes, no. That's why I say education about as well fashion is important to know, okay, is it worth or is it too expensive? Why is it this price? Or is it local? Is it made in Europe, made in Australia? When you think about it, years back, Australia had so much like factories and making shoes, clothing, and now
knitwear,
it's mainly made in China or in Bali, or and the industry was quite big with a lot of things, even in Perth.
Really?
So now there is not much if you want to find someone. So maybe you find a like local seamstress, which has maybe a few other employees to create something. But most of the time, otherwise, you're almost obliged to go overseas because either it would be too expensive because they don't have the infrastructure to do it, or because they don't exist where you live or where you want to produce.
Yeah, I think what is working in Perth is sort of the concept of an event. So when you have an event, people know to come to that place. So I would like to see, you know, the city more proactive in maybe helping events work together as like a network, so you could go to one thing and then surrounding is like other things. And there's also new creative events coming in up, like there was Perth Design Week.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think.
But again, Perth Design Week is made by someone, a private person that decided to do this project because she loves the city and she knows about architecture and all these things because she's an architect. But it's always coming from other people, and the city sometimes takes the credits at the end, but don't really engage at first.
Do you know if the city promoted that event much?
I think partially a bit. I don't know this year. Last year, I'm pretty sure. This year, I didn't pay attention so much, but I'm pretty sure they did promote in some ways as well. But I have the feeling they come a bit late.
Do you know if it was
afterwards?
Was it funded at all by?
No.
No.
I'm pretty sure. No, I don't want to say for sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Because I think there's Fremantle Design Week as well, and I know that came through government grants, but that's also an individual's idea.
That's the thing that very often there are quite a few grants that the city and the state offer throughout the years, but it's true that the thing is they last quite a short time span. So they launch a new grant, you have like 2 months to apply. When it's closed, it's finished, which means that if, let's say, you have a project but it doesn't fit to the schedule of the grants, you will not get it because it's not the right moment. And sometime when the grant comes out, in 2 months, you don't have the time just to, as a small business, to do everything and take days to fill out all the forms and do the quotes and go to professionals to have everything in so short time. And still, nonetheless, the grant is for maybe next year. So you have to do it so early in 1 year.
And aside of that, the grant is nice, but then the grant gives you money to make something happen, but it doesn't give you the visibility. So then it's nice if you can make happen something, but then you need visibility. And I think that's where as well the city could use their connection, their contacts to create this visibility. And they know people in the media, they know they have the TV if they want to. So they could go a bit further. It's already a good start, the grants, because it does help. Not a lot of countries or places in the world have this kind of grants, so that's a good start. But then I think they can go a step further, so it, in a way, their money is spent well. Because if it's just spent and then there is no, I would say that reward in a way for the business and for the city, then it's like you just spend money because you have the money to give, but then what after?
Yeah, I think I say this in a lot of like when like the city wants to just tick the box, but they don't actually care and they don't actually proactively want to help each business. They just want to kind of show that they're doing it or have like a picture
Yeah,
or like a
that's the
tick the
feeling
box,
I have.
but
Yeah.
not.
And I've noticed, because sometimes when I speak with the business department in the city, they always say, no problem, we can promote your event and everything. But the thing is, I myself never go on their website to see what is promoted. So when the city says that they promote events and happening, but do they have an impact as a go-to places for people to look for events? And that's the thing I'm wondering sometimes. Because if you have a website, the city of Perth, who has so many hits and blah, blah, blah per month, per year, but people go mostly for administrative things and not really because, I want to do something this weekend. Let's go city of Perth and check what is happening.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Yes.
The problem is they can promote, but if, let's say, let's ask people around in the Perth suburbs, do you look city of Perth for what to do on this specific weekend? Maybe yes, maybe I'm totally wrong, but I have a bit this feeling that that's not enough. It has to be even a community of cities, because it's only not city of Perth, but it's city of Vincent and etc.
Exactly.
And all the city around, they all have an impact to make a statement between each other and to attract crowd from different places, because the people who are there are already there, so it's okay, but it's the others.
And I don't think there's enough collaboration. There should be collaboration between a lot of parties coming together to promote this one thing, rather than just like.
Alone is difficult.
Yeah.
It's always the same thing. Again, come back to this sense of community. People have to come together and be willing to as well spend a bit of their time and energy into doing it. So not only the city's responsibility, but as well, I think individuals' responsibility as well to make their part as well, do their part.
Because like just talking about these events like Design Week, Fremantle Design Week, I believe there used to be a Perth Fashion Week. Do you know the history on that, or what happened to that? Because that could be
the Perth Fashion Festival that I believe was in Perth for at least 25 years or something like this. It was actually quite nice because it was a time where you could, I think it was around September or something like this, a time where you could dress up, see some shows, see some designers. Sometimes they have like showrooms where you could see and different events around fashion. I think the issue as well with that on the long run, I don't know at first because I wasn't in Perth when it started, but I think that as well it was the lack of showcasing new designer. It was mainly the same designer every year that were a bit well known in Perth.
so not commercial, but just designers that everybody knew.
Designers that people knew already, so they will come and purchase the tickets to go to the shows. But for me, because it's a fashion festival and not a fashion week per se, I was expecting as well more to see. It could have been a good platform to showcase
the new ones.
Like
the new
the stuff coming out of TAFE and
Yes.
everything like that.
Yeah. They were doing, I think, one show sometimes with some of the people from some of the students from this art school, but not enough. Sometimes I was going, and from one year to the other, you have the feeling you were seeing the same thing. And you've seen this brand last year, and it's again the same this year, with not much change. Which, in a way, people would say that okay, in the fashion capital, it's always the same brand as well showcasing, which is partially true. But each year there is like one or two new designers that are able to showcase at Fashion Week.
Sometimes invited, so they don't have to pay all the costs.
So they don't have to be all new, because I understand marketing-wise, you need to attract as well the people to come. Even more when it's a festival, because you make people pay for the tickets, but then you can have, because people pay for the tickets, then you can free a bit of funds, so you can have this younger designer showcase their talent and work in partnership with the schools.
It could be also, totally the reverse, and you said, okay, I do a festival only with new ones, so people would be, okay, what is the new trends? And then they would be curious to come, not because it's a brand they know already, they have already 3-piece in the closet, but they never heard about it, and it's just there that they will discover it, and they will be before everybody else.
And again, on the other side, I think that's the side, the critic side of it. But again, because when you do something as big as this was, because you have sponsors, you still have to deal with what they want as well a bit. So that's the tricky part as well. I think that comes back to what you were saying and we were saying before, that if the brands say we want to sell this many tickets, it's about showcasing only the well-known people because we want to use their, database of like people. So maybe as well, I don't know if it's that, but you can be as well sometimes limited by what your sponsors want because they give you the money.
That's a trend I've seen.
And if they are not
as well.
interested in fashion so much, they're interested, even though they give the money, they want to do their advertising, but maybe there is some rules or some guidelines they
And
give
it's
you.
got to be a balance.
And even for grants, there are rules, quite a bit of rules, because we are working on a project with a photographer, and he had quite a long list of requirements to do this specific thing that the city asked him to do with a grant, but at the same time, following lots of consideration. So I do believe that it's difficult because the people who give you the money, they don't give the money totally for free. They give it for
they have
some return, and the return can be many different ways. But
and to be honest, even though sometimes I complain towards the year that I didn't like certain things about it, now that's not here anymore. It was better than having nothing.
Yeah, what actually happened to Perth Fashion Week? You were saying to do with ticket sales. Was it ticket sales? Was it COVID?
I think it was a mix of different things. They have like financial issue at the end. I will not go into very deeply because I don't know all the parameters around it, but financial issue for sure at the end. And I think that, it's always the same thing. When you do something nice and it works, everybody's here to cheer you up. When things starts to go down, then there is no one else, no one around, and they're all like, I knew we will go down, or this kind of thing. So
pick up the pieces.
So for me it was always the same thing, but I've seen with some certain things that happened that a lot of people were like happy to showcase when it was happening. They were happy to come or to be invited and have free tickets and things like this. We were lucky a few times to be invited and not have to pay for it because some of the people in the organization love our sense of fashion and the way we dress and everything. But at the same time, you have to as well, I think, be grateful when things change because even though you don't like certain things, but if you took something out of it, you should be still thankful that you were able to take something out of it. And for us as well, when we were doing networking the first year, Perth Fashion Festival was part of a big part of our networking in fashion industry because all people from fashion industry in Perth were at the same place at the same moment. So it was easy for us to network in this industry at this moment. So even though I don't like certain things, I don't like certain things, it still brought us something.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people are very forgetful.
Do you think people are happy to be a part of the event, but the hard thing is actually being the person who's creating and managing the event? So maybe once an event is created, you can have, it's easy for, this event to be populated in Perth, but it's just the starting, it's so difficult and there's a lot of red tape and...
red tape, you need money, and it's quite challenging. So otherwise, if it was easy, everybody would have, or anyone would have started something else again. And I've seen some people trying to do some kind of things like this. But the reality is that it's quite difficult. You need to think about a lot of things, and you have to be sure that you have enough money to pay people as well.
No, and finally, it's a huge business project. So you have to prepare something that you can go to big players and say, okay, this is my project, would you give me money? And unfortunately, it's not just a couple of thousand.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit more money. And then you have to have the venue, so is the state helping you or is the city helping you, or both? Do you go to private places where there is, I don't know, a nice sponsor that would allow you to use a huge space that he owns that is empty or something, and so on and so forth. And then who is working while there is an event? People are working for free. Are they paid? Who is paid and who is not paid? Etc. etc. And then you need accounting, and then you need a lot of different specialists. probably lawyers, and
Yeah, because sometimes
so
people
it
only
becomes-
see the front and what happened, but in the background there is
Yeah.
quite a lot of things happening.
So quite difficult.
And yeah, you need to have strong shoulders, and I believe that probably if something happened, maybe already some stuff are in the making. I don't know, but probably it's as well as the idea of having different people coming together, not only one person doing it, but a few people that can bring their network, their knowledge of whatever industry they are, because I think that's again what probably will make it stronger and better.
And I have a bit the feeling that when an organization is rolling, the fact that some of the key people stay forever, it's good, but at the same time, how much are they willing to help new people come in? Because they're there for many years, they launch brands, they launch, designer, so then became a bit, friends or something. So how are you open to always new things, to go back and roll your sleeves and go to see a small designer in a dirty atelier somewhere to see that, he's an amazing creative, I want him next year?
Well, for me, it's not a problem that the person stays for a long time, because sometimes you need as well someone to stay for a long time for stability, but this person have to keep focus on what is the goal of this potential event or the fashion festival at the time, and trying to say, okay, we are here to showcase people's talent. Okay, we are here to showcase new talents. You want to be fashion forward, not like the one that showcase something that already been shown last year. You want to be the one that showcase the new thing. So for me, it's more about that. It's like not losing focus because you do a lot of things, and because as well, yeah, you have to report to sponsors or whatever things. And yeah,
I think another barrier I've seen is you want to make it welcoming for somebody that maybe not 100% into fashion, the average sort of person. How can we make it welcoming for them? So I think it's got to operate differently in Perth and everywhere else. Just like with the art scene, sometimes the average person doesn't feel like they can
go,
be a part of this thing because I don't know, have the knowledge about the arts, where it's not really about that. It's like if you appreciate it, you like it, then you like
discovery.
it. It's okay. And yeah, it's discovery. So I think with fashion as well, it needs to be welcoming, so people who are new can sort of come in and like feel at least they can learn about it and be a part of the community and start their journey as well.
I think that something that's an issue a bit everywhere in the world, but more so in Perth, is that sometimes people think, we need the fashion community to be here, and people in the industry, which is nice, but at the same time, as you say, some people sometimes don't feel comfortable, or they think, I have no interest for that. But if the branding were made in a way that you could make people feel that they can come, maybe you find new sponsors, or you find other people that know people that say, these things you should invest in, you should be like sponsor for next year. You could actually broaden your pool of sponsors and people that can help you. Sometimes it's not only about your community. When I say being interested in fashion, even for us, we have many interests with different type of businesses and different type of we have different type of friends in different industries, because it's important to like broaden. You don't want to be just only with people from your industry, because then first of all it's boring. Second of all, you might need someone else that is not in your industry, and then you remember, I've met this person at a party, I don't know, in a law firm or whatever things. And I think it's about as well, again, the diversity, understanding that diversity is actually what makes something good and great and strong.
Yes.
And at first I think you need that. It's like Perth is the third city in Australia, and if you want to own this name and own this place and to justify it, then people say, it's a big city, and stop having people saying as well over East, Perth. Perth, you live in Perth. But what are you doing in Perth? So here we have people like, what are you doing in Perth? And when we go over East, people are asking us the same questions.
Yeah.
So Perth needs to be more legitimate in its place in Australia, being a big city and being a wealthy state.
But
it should have a bigger place for sure.
Possibly the mono branding of mining, oil and gas, minerals has created a bit this thing that it's so monofocused that everybody talks about it because they're all in the same industry. And finally, who is doing something totally different from that? Just supporting businesses around, banking and insurance and the housing and etc. But there is a large majority of people who work in this industry, and it doesn't allow so much diversity. And I think it's also the diversity increased a bit with so many people coming from different countries in the world in Perth, and this huge increase of diversity compared to maybe the 50s, where it was, more a few countries who were bringing most of the people in Western Australia. Now there are people coming from so many places that it allows more diversity, and this diversity could create more opportunities for Western Australia to have more industries coming up. A little bit like now they invested in this new studios for television and cinema. So that will bring definitely a lot of things and use creative from WAPA and TAFE and other places.
We just need a space for them to come and use and grow.
Yeah.
But it's a bit harder. Do you think there needs to be, because of the mining industry, the mineral resources industry being so big, do you think it would be beneficial for these creative industries or events to somehow fit into that, or create it in a way that's saying, hey, this will benefit you guys to bring more sponsors or something like that?
I would say it should be the reverse, because the government gives so much freedom to those companies. They should as well play their part into the economy, and their part sometimes is supporting because they have the money, they have the network, they have the connections to do it. I think it will be more giving them more responsibilities in what they should do as well, because obviously they bring money, but they do as well a bit of like seeing that for the environment and that not so good as well. So they should as well in a way balance it by doing a bit of good for the city. So they're not just here to take money and pay taxes, but as well they can give back to the community in other way than the taxes, that obviously they pay a lot of taxes. But
I guess there are some business models coming into Perth, like you have mining companies like Fortescue, which creates Minderoo, which they funding like ocean research projects, and they are putting money into the arts and various areas, which is, I think it's good for starting.
It's a good
starting
start for sure. Yes, you have to start somewhere.
And it's a good start. So,
but I do believe that because they have so much money, they can do so much better.
Yeah, it's just I feel like they already have their way of making an income, which is so separate from any creative industry, that they're asking themselves like, why should we invest in this? I guess maybe it's our job as creatives to say, hey, this is why you should invest. I mean, there are people coming to Perth to work in the mines, like anybody can come, but then they have to live in the city as well. So I think maybe from that standpoint, like, you don't want your workers to maybe feel depressed when they come to the city.
They want them to feel comfortable as well.
Exactly, and I think
as well.
I do believe that creative industry are a good complement to the day-to-day life of most of the businesses. And when you have more options, you can be happier in your life, and then you do your 9 to 5 or your shift of the night or whatever in the different industry you work, but then you have opportunities that you can do so many other things in your cities or suburbs, and not only basically you have the ocean available, but there is more than just going to the ocean all year round. You might want to do something else. Maybe you like to swim in the morning, but that doesn't maybe motivate so much your brain for freshness or something new or different compared to your FIFO work, where you're very monofocused for so many days, and then you have a bit of free time, and during this free time maybe you want to expand a bit.
And as well because they are in WA anyway and they need to be here, the government can in a way can would be able, I mean, to push them a bit more, because it's not like some companies, they're here, or if they're here, it's okay, but if they're somewhere else, they don't mind because they don't need to be physically there. But because of mining, this company needs to be here anyway, so
Yeah.
it's a bit of a leverage
Yeah,
as
I
well,
think
you know what I mean?
Also, you
Yeah.
find with this industry, they come back from the mining and they just either they stay and they just want to, they don't really want to go outside. They just want to relax as much as possible. But also, when they go to the mines, they have like empty property spaces here. So it's that's just another barrier that I'm thinking of creating community. But
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
that, I guess that's just how the industry.
No, I think
is.
the industry is not so much the issue, but I do believe that when you do a lot of things and you earn a lot of money, and again, that's more political, but because they use, in a way, people's land to find these resources, maybe it's a good way to say, okay, that's your share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then it's political, but that's my point of view. But
Mm.
yeah, and for me, it's more about that, because again, you can help in certain ways. Everybody can do their own part, but for sure, the more money you have, the more you can help, and the more you can do. Is the truth.
I think the way they think in terms of is money. The way we think, maybe it's terms of like creativity, community, that sort of thing. So I think there just needs to be a way either we can communicate with them, and also they need to see value in the creative industry somehow.
I think it's the state responsibility. To give you an example, so by example, we were talking about the vacancy rate in the city with like shops and everything. In the East Coast, in certain places, there is a special tax for landlords. If the space is empty for too long, then their tax increase.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why there is less empty spaces as well, because they don't want their tax to increase. Which in Perth, when you have an empty space, then you have a tax break.
I mean, you deduct the outgoing and all the cost of the things from your tax, and so
there is things to do that the states can do if they want to, but then you have to put them in place so people say, okay, it was worth having it empty because then I decrease my taxes. But now that finally my taxes increase, maybe I'll find someone.
Yeah, there needs to be more like want to do things like. And I'm seeing it
but
slowly.
People,
But it's not quick enough.
It's not quick enough, and for me, it's always the same thing. If you purchase something in the city, I don't understand the logic of having your space empty, even though you can have a tax break. Why don't you purchase then a residential building where actually nobody sees it, and if it's empty, who cares?
Yeah.
For me, it's as well that as well. So it's a bit, again, I think going back to this education part, you want to have that, you have the right because you purchase it with your own money, but then don't you want to be like helping the city to do something nice with it, and
but then
give more value to your building as well, if it's more.
You say that for commercial, but at the same time with residential, when they build a lot of towers in the city which were purchased by foreign investors and left empty, then people say there is a housing crisis, but actually there are hundreds and hundreds of apartments from foreigners that have not been used for years in towers.
But foreigners, it's a bit difficult to manage. I was talking about local landlords, because foreigners sometimes they don't even care.
Yeah, but if you allow foreigners to buy in your country, you can set a set of rules and say, okay, you buy, it's an investment property, but it has to be rented because we don't want empty housing. Because what's the point that huge corporations build towers that are 70% empty because they're bought by foreigners, which is a big way of making money. They do that in all over the world, but at some point it's a little bit like residential, commercial. You don't want to have the first floor empty on the street because then it looks like a dead city. And it's the same.
I mean by that is that it's less impactful visually and image-wise to have an empty building with residential than empty stores.
I agree, but if people live in the building, then they use the space, and then they want to go more to the cafe, and the coffee are not closed all at 1 p.m. and then close Saturday, Sunday, because there are still people living around.
Yeah, if the landlords don't want to lease, the issue in the city is that some of the places, the landlords don't want to lease.
Yeah.
So it's not a
No,
question
no.
of having more people in the building.
No, no, but
They don't need
it's
the
the
money
same.
and they don't want to lease. So
Yeah,
what can you
but
do with that?
because a business owner doesn't want to start something in the city because there are not enough people around.
No,
Because unfortunately, you cannot just work a couple of days a week and be emptying the other so many
no,
days.
I mean, I understand, but it's different from the business owners that want to start a business, from a landlord that say, you cannot have my space. And in some terms, so I won't say the area because otherwise it will be too specific, but in certain areas of the city, some of these people had opportunities with as well big brands or big businesses that are internationally renowned and refuse them because they're not good enough for them.
Mm.
So what can you do with that?
Yeah. I think like something that's been said is property here in Perth has been seen as a way to make money rather than a place to live.
I agree,
And same with spaces for the
Commercially,
business,
yeah.
commercial
it's an
business.
investment and then
It's a way of investment, but not as a place to have a business or like a store
true, yeah.
that could bring that life to the city. So we're the way the business model here works is constantly choosing money over like
community and
life,
yeah.
creativity.
I think in the role I think that's probably one of the other issue, but again Perth is still moving forward slowly.
We're a
But
young
then
city.
as well I think it's up to the city, up to the state and up to the people as well. I think that everybody have a bit of responsibility into this game, if we can call it a game, and it's just a matter of like everybody starting to be on the same page and say, okay, I want to be part of the city, I want to be part of the change. The city seeing, okay, we can help you be part of the change because we want it to change as well, and so on. So yeah.
I think moving to sort of different topic, I want to know what's interesting to you guys in terms of the fashion overseas in Europe or maybe other countries, and yourself, Aymeric, you've just been to Japan. So currently, what's sort of interesting you guys?
So overseas, and I will talk about Japan as you say because I was there recently. I think it's seeing people excitement for shopping, for fashion. Everybody is so fashionable in a style that you like or not because it's not your style. But Japan, I'm talking now, but as well Europe, same thing as well. You can see people that as well have this sense of pride of what they wear, and they feel good about wearing nice things. Nice thing doesn't mean expensive thing, but nice style. And for me, I think is that overseas, I think they have this culture of shopping and this culture of dressing up for the occasion. If you go to a restaurant, then you dress up a certain way. If you go to a bar, you dress up another way. If you go to an event, then there is another way of dressing up. And I think it's as well this job maybe to play with fashion and to use fashion to its full potential, rather than sometime in other places just wearing things or sometimes being too overdressed or not dressed enough. So I think that's the thing I like about the fashion overseas, that you can see people like it. And again, it's not about being bold, it's not about wearing a lot of colors, but it's more like seeing that people have their individual style and their own identity in the way they dress. So you might like it or not, but then you can see, oh, it looks good on them and it's nice on them. I would maybe not wear it, but you can see that they feel good in their own skin. Yeah.
And then I would jump back to Perth to link it, and I said, because in some other places in the world there is so much choice, people just enjoy to shop and still possibly shop physically in a retail space.
Yeah.
When, like in Perth, everybody's always complaining there is not much choice, so they buy online, then it continues to be more online because there is all the shops closing because people don't buy in the shops. And at the same time, as we said with Aymeric, we came here, we did a market study to see that there was potential in Perth, because here everybody sold the same, so it was a bit boring, let's say, in a generic term, and people thought, okay, because I don't have so much choice and I have 3 colors of jeans instead of 20, if I want a specific color of jeans, I buy it online because I don't find it in Perth. And when I buy it online, all the big brands, the big groups have free return, free delivery, free everything. So I don't even care. Even though I didn't try it in a store, I buy it, I buy the size. If it's not my size, I change, send it back, I do it 2 or 3 times, and it's totally bad for the environment, terrible cost of logistics and pollution and everything, but they don't care because they want this color that they cannot find here, and online you can find it. In other places in the world, you have everything in the cities. There are so many choices, so many brands, new designer in districts and everything. So you can evolve in your style, just enjoying your city and going different places.
And well, I was gonna say, in Japan specifically, when I was there, they have districts. They have the Kitazawa district, which is more like vintage fashion. You go there for the vintage, and then in Shibuya, it's more like high-end brands. But even in the department stores, like Parker in Shibuya, which has all like every single brand, high-end brand you can imagine, they also have pop-ups for local designers, and then they have like a fashion show up on the roof. So there's these places and events that's has a lot of energy, and you can go there and you can do different things. And Kitazawa is just like, it's an experience. It's an experience. Yeah.
I think it's not like you said the right word. I think it's the experience. And the service as well helps as well. I think sometimes some people say, because there is a lack of service as well, they prefer to go online. And again, I always talk about education because I believe that when you need something, you should think, can I find it where I live first? And then, depending on the price point, decide, if you can afford it or not. And before starting to watch online, that's what I do, because sometimes I don't find what I want, so I end up looking online. But first thing is like, I have some friends owning shops. Let's start there. If I can find something there, I find it here. If I can't, I will start to look online or to other places, but I'll start local first before starting to watch online, so I can spend my money, because I will spend the money anyway, so I would rather spend it where I know it will help, rather than doing like to a big brand that they don't care about my money. So I think the education part of it, and probably the big difference as well when you say with like countries like Japan or some countries in Europe or in the US, is that certain places, I believe that people try to find like quality over quantity. And in Australia, sometimes, not always, but sometimes people want the quantity over the quality. And I do believe that people have to learn that if you purchase something a bit nicer, it will last longer, because maybe you have the feeling you save because you purchase it $10, but after a few wash, when it's like all torn apart, then finally you have to purchase it again. So you're not saving money, you're just spending less in a short period of time, but then you will end up spending way more because you will replace and replace and replace and replace. And one of the other things that I think is all over the world is that social media push people to have so much clothes to be able to post new things all the time. And sometimes some people afford, so they can purchase more qualitative things, but some people want to follow, but then decide, I need to find only thing that's $1. And I think it's as well something that in the fashion industry you have to be a bit more, people have to be more aware of and start to be more responsible as well in their part.
And that's where also our type of business brings something different to help people reuse their clothes in different ways. Because actually it's not true. It's not because you buy something and you wear it once on a photo, then it's gone. You have to use something new. You can layer it, you can swap it, you can transform it, you can dye it, you can, even have a seamstress transform the things, cut the sleeves. There are so many possibilities with a garment, and it's not true that you can use it only in a way and then you have to dispose because people have seen it already. And this kind of things makes people already think differently and say, maybe it's true that if I buy a bit less quantity but a bit more quality, first of all they last and they can be transformed. you can transform the buttons, you can transform. There are so many ways that the same garment, not spending much money, you can give him a second, third, fourth life.
Yes.
There were a study a few days ago that showed that Australia was the biggest purchaser, I don't know what you call it, buyer of fast fashion in the world. So it says quite a bit about the fashion industry in Australia and what needs to be changed as well, for like the environment, but as well people working in factories that are not paid or underpaid in bad conditions, and as well that if you need your country to be strong, there is so many ways, but investing the money into the country is one of the way you can help your country to be stronger. That's why I always do that, because I did that as well in Europe. When I had shops around me, I try to shop in this shop because I like to be in this area and I like the shops to stay here. So I know I cannot be the only one doing that, but if a lot of people start to do that, then they can succeed and stay and grow and expand and hire more people. So I think people have to be more conscious of the impact of their actions.
Shop local and understand that every purchase you do, you have a social responsibility. From a teenager who has his first money and starts to spend by himself and not have the parents buy what he wants or she wants, to the retiree who has maybe a bit less income but can still afford a lot of things, but a bit differently because they change body shape, they don't dress the same, they don't go out to parties and events anymore, they have a different lifestyle, so they change, but they're still buying things. So on this huge array of people from young to old, every time you buy something, there is an impact in the world, and possibly when you buy cheap, there are consequences to the environment and to yourself. Because the other day we read also that there were some things that people bought from a certain brand, and the brand had chemicals in the clothing, and the person got cancer from the chemicals of the clothes they were buying cheap on internet. So there are risks when you think that it's the way to go to be cheap. There are consequences.
So on the 21st of June, Shein will have one of its first pop-ups in Australia. The Shein pop-up's going to be held at Lakeside Joondalup. As people who are in the fashion industry here in Perth, I've been here a long time. How do you feel about that?
I don't understand it. I don't even understand how governments can allow such a thing, because it means at the same time, if you let them do that, it means that you're agreeing with what they're doing, and you're agreeing that's the way to go as well. And because they have a reach that's so big, I think it's sending the wrong message. And I understand, again, some people will say, oh yeah, but it depends on how much money you earn, but maybe you have more income than me, but nowadays I don't think it's an excuse anymore. You can go to an op shop, find a nice fabric for a few dollars, maybe they're a bit more expensive than before now, but still find nice things. There is not an excuse anymore to say, oh yeah, but I cannot afford to go in a fancy shop or these things. It's just about being more clever in the way you do your shopping. And for me, when I saw that, I was like, there is no other word to say. I don't understand, because I don't understand this concept of purchasing this way. And I've watched some of the comments under one of their posts or someone posting about it. And I saw people so excited to see
a lot
it,
of comments.
and like I understand that the thrill of like finding like things so cheap is quite appealing, but I saw to Christian a video on, I think on TikTok, about someone making some kind of a comedy about people buying on Shein, and she was like going in a shop. I was like, oh no, I won't get it because I can have like 10 pieces in Shein for this price or for a lower price. And I was like, yeah, but if you think like this, then when there is nothing around, then if there is no more businesses, no more things around, then you don't have a job potentially as well, because the economy is going down. And if the economy is going down, it's affecting everybody and your own income as well, except if you work in mining possibly. But for every other people, everything that you do in this matter affects it. For us, by example, we have no more customers, then we spend less money in purchasing stuff for the store, so we spend less money in the economy. We don't spend the money for the rent because we close the store. We don't spend money for that. So then, if everybody does that, then the impact in the quantity of people doing it is quite big. So people don't think about this kind of thing as well. Yeah.
And for sure, they don't think of the impact that finally they're all giving the power to very few conglomerate owned by international companies elsewhere, don't pay tax in Australia. Sure, they will pay GST on their $2 thing that they sell, but they don't pay tax in Australia. And finally, do you want to have, like, in 5 or 10 years time, 3 choice of clothes and that's it, 3 brands or 1 brand left in the world, because everybody's doing the same thing? I want cheap, cheap, cheap. Then everybody's dying. The big ones are buying the other big ones, so they become bigger, and then there is like one mono fashion company, and everybody's dressed the same.
Because I think there is
because that's what is happening. People are all dressed the same. There are millions of garments produced, which means or hundreds, thousands of millions of garments produced, and basically a little bit like some communist country in the past, everybody was dressed the same because that was only one uniform.
And I think the biggest issue is that sometimes people don't see the impact on the environment. They don't see the impact with people's life, that the workers are actually making the thing that have their lives damaged by the fact that they purchase so much stuff. And the last one, when these brands, like you say Shein, do these pop-ups in cities, they've done it as well in Paris, I think a few months back. They're doing pop-ups, so they're not paying the same tax. So they're here, they just take the money and they leave, and they go in another city. So there is no...
they're only gaining.
Yes, there is nothing that they bring to the actual place where they do their pop-ups. They just know, oh, here there is a lot of people purchasing us, so if we go, we can do a lot more money because they can try, they can do, and they spend more. Because knowing as well that it's a short period of time, they want to spend more money. Maybe some people saved for it, so they can purchase more pieces.
And most probably, because their physical location, then they will reach age groups that normally don't buy online, will discover them, and then they will ask their kids, their grandkids to buy online Shein for them too. Because before they didn't know, because at a certain age you don't look online to buy a dress, you still go in maybe a shop.
And the first point is that all these clothes that are so cheap and so badly made, they end up in the landfill. They end up in op shops that don't know what to do with it, and then they go flooding countries overseas like Africa for them to have them in the nature because they don't know what to do with it. So people have to think that this kind of action have an impact. It's not just thinking about you or looking cute for 5 minutes for a photo. You have to think, okay, what I'm doing, and even more because for the new generation, is for you and for the people after. If you just damage everything, then it's difficult to go back. We already nowadays, we don't know certain things how to reverse it because there is already so much damage. So if you keep just adding and adding, then I don't know what happens after that. I don't want to know actually, but yeah.
So back to education.
More responsible for sure.
And maybe in some ways education is also the responsibility of the government. When people are taught in school, maybe they should have a bit of information about these kind of things and become responsible buyers.
Yeah.
Because when they're young, they don't buy themselves. They just ask the parents, and when they start to have the purchasing power to buy, from a candy to clothes and other things, okay, where does it come from, your candy? How much sugar and chemicals are in it? Are the effect on your body on the long run and everything? Because everybody thinks that when you're young, you last forever. It's no problem, but
the thing with these big brands like Shein, it's not only in Australia, it's everywhere in the world. That's an issue that all the world have, and Shein is one of them, but there is so many others in the same line. So for sure, it's something that's a bit concerning, I think.
Is it? Yeah. I guess the government would have to allow Shein to have this pop up, correct? would have to go through some sort of
I
process.
guess
or
technically they don't have a ground to forbid it, except if they were to put a law in place where, because of like human rights, things like this, because they don't align with what they're doing, they could technically, I think, do something legally. But then as well, in a way, they bring a bit of business as well, even though they are not doing like proper business for me. But I guess
like, what message is that saying to independent fashion business owners here in Perth? Like, we're allowing Shein to have this.
for me, it
pop-up.
sends a message that these brands are more important than the locals. That's the message it sends for me. But yeah, and for me, if you allow this kind of things and you are willing to have that, then it means that, in fact, as you said before, it's about money and about not so much about what's good or what's in matters. And
Yeah, you see this large like shopping centers promoting Shein,
yeah,
but what about the local designers? Or
yeah, they don't do the promotion because they know it will benefit their traffic. So probably will benefit some of the people around, maybe, but maybe not as well. Because if you go to Shein to purchase a $1 garment, maybe even if the garment is $10 in another store, maybe you're not interested because you say, oh no, Shein, I can have $1.
exactly.
So
And they
maybe
probably
even though
copied
it brings
from-
traffic, maybe it's not the right traffic for the other store anyway. So I'm not sure they will gain a lot. Probably a small percentage of them will probably do other things around while they're here. But I doubt that it will be like such a nice impact. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But
Even
yeah,
though
yeah.
probably the first day there will be huge queues and everybody will
No, I'm sure there will
be
be a
on
lot
the
of people,
social
yeah.
media being like thrilled about it, and it's
But you see, when you see some people that are creating content or supposedly in the influence, back in the day, some people would be like ashamed maybe to share this kind of brand and mention it. Now it's everybody is proud.
Yeah, it's almost because I was in Japan and I saw there was a Shein pop up in Osaka
Yeah.
for a bit, and it's almost like they're testing these pop ups
Oh, yeah,
just
yeah.
to kind of
To see
enter
what's
in the
best
scene
and
and seeing where they can have a store, because it is a controversial brand and they know it.
is.
So they're just like,
I think
no,
they
but,
like it.
but it,
I think
it
they like
makes
to be controversial actually.
it's the buzz.
Yeah, yeah.
Finally, they create the buzz. I'm sure they gain new client base because people who would not know the brand because they are not internet literate will discover it, because the kids will talk about it, the girls, the boys, and then the grandmother here, what is this Shein? Everybody's
Yeah.
going, so let's go see. And then so I do think that there is a marketing impact for sure, and a lot of buzz. But I'm sorry, again, it's like promoting the destruction of land because you make more money. But when the land is destroyed, then how do you go back?
And they're quite clever because they know the way. I think the way they do their pop-ups and everything is that they rely on the fact that build this thrill and this excitation into people, because they will only be here for so many. They don't know how long
yeah, they're
exactly,
just
but
here, make the
yeah.
money
yes.
from the hype.
So
and
you have to
that
be in
helps,
these days. So you have to make time, and because you don't know if they will be coming again in the future. So you purchase more than you need.
So imagine, probably some people will take their day off to go to Shein.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
On
I'm
the
pretty
Friday.
Sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. People do it for other things, so I don't know why they will.
And
We
they had
don't do it for
the
that.
strange idea to choose the same day of our 7th anniversary of our business.
Oh dear.
That's okay. I don't think we have the same. We share the same.
No, fortunately not. But yeah, we will not think about it on that day, for sure.
For sure not.
Do you think there should be, like, because you don't want to see this sort of thing happen more? Like, it's not good for the environment, it's not ethical brand at all, it's cheap, it's, as you were saying, like, when you buy these sort of synthetic clothes, there could be health issues, and the children aren't educated on this, like the kids who buy this stuff, so they don't care, they're just tagging their friends and
Yeah, for
all
sure.
of that. So, yeah, I don't know how. Like, I just hope that this sort of thing doesn't continue. But whose responsibility is it? And the government.
Unfortunately, it will, because
I
we
think it will be.
saw
It
we
will
saw
be
more
worse
and
than
more,
that. Yeah.
more and more huge corporation who started small, because when you think H&M started in one city in Scandinavia, Zara started in one small town in Spain. They all start somewhere, but at the time they were traditional and they were a physical location. Now this new conglomerate, they don't have physical location, they don't have cost, they don't have staff, they don't have electricity, air conditioning, all this. They're all in huge factory in places where the land is cheap, so probably in the middle of nowhere. Just it has to be logistical center, so your parcel can go quickly on an airport and then flown anywhere in the world. But you know, all this makes it that the costs are squeezed to the max, but it doesn't mean that what they produce is it's terrible. And how are the employee treated? Are the condition of work are good or not? Nobody cares. But the problem is, as I said many times to people, sometimes when you buy things very cheap, it might be that there are some minor or very young people working in these factories because they cost almost nothing.
Oh, yeah,
and when they're working in these factories, they don't get educated, which means that in 20 years, 30 years, the country is still at the same position with the same people so poor because they don't have the possibility to be educated and to make their life better because they just work in a factory 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week or more, and they earn so little. But the land increased prices.
You have to consider if the price point of certain garments in some of these brands is $1 or a few dollars after markup. So it means what is the cost of like production, and because the cost of production includes as well shipping and all these things, so it means
a few cents.
Give you a bit of an idea of what people are paid. So that's kind of an issue. We all want, and we all know, we all want to earn money, we all want to do our lives, so why should we not expect the same thing for others? For me, it's as well about that. Again, it's a question of respect. So it means that if it were to happen to one of us in the world, in the Western world, people would be like horrified because it's not normal. It's not respecting women, right? But the thing is, sometimes when it happens in other countries, people are like, oh, that's normal. That's the way they still have jobs, so it's better than nothing.
They're not the same rules. Yeah. So if you get fumes and then you die from cancer, oh, too bad for you. But at least you work 20 years for Shein. You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm doing it as a joke. It's not a joke, and it's terrible for these people. But I do believe, like, when they were miners and they were going down, and then there was a blow, and then some people died there, and it was still to make coal that people could have warm heating at home or have factory work or transportation function. So it was for the community. Their fashion is somehow for people who buy online. Is it really necessary that people die for that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think not educated here or in Australia on that, and kids aren't educated, and then even
it's not only in Australia. Again, I think that specific issue is everywhere in the world. I do think effectively in Australia, because of as well this recent study, there is more this trend of like purchasing certain fast fashion and cheap things, but I think it's an issue that everywhere in the world people, and I think it's due a lot to social media. Even though they are nice for a lot of things, but on the other hand, I think it brought all these things like you need to have new stuff all the time, and again, depending on your income, you cannot purchase new things at a few hundred or a few thousands every day, which is normal. Sorry, but I think again, come back to the education, and people have to start to be themselves and not do things for others, do with what they have in their pocket already, and according to that, try to take the best decisions for them, but as well for the other people, because even though sometimes they think it doesn't affect them, but it will end up down the line affecting them in some ways. If it does affect the economy, local economy, or if it does affect people around them, or as you said, because you have like bad chemicals in certain garments or products, it will affect your health as well, so then you have to pay somewhere. So yeah, and the system has to pay somewhere as well.
Because I think when these young people are trying to find their style, I mean, when you're trying to find your style, you kind of have to try different clothes. You have to buy like different clothes to find that. So I think they're going for like the cheapest possible option when I guess the best alternative would be op shopping.
I think, yeah.
But I don't know, there's a lot of increase in those op shop prices as well, unfortunately, but I think that's just the way the economy is. But yeah, just
No,
I
that's
think
true. There
comes
is
down
like
to
a lot of increase, but then at the same time, if you purchase a good garment, even though it's a bit more expensive, again, it's
gonna
about
last.
keeping it on the long
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And if you do purchase like cheaper pieces, then make sure that you purchase cheaper pieces with at least a nice fabric that lasts a bit longer. As well, because I don't judge people that sometimes, depending on your income, you cannot always find what you want in even in an op shop. But then even this way of purchasing in like cheaper places, try to think, okay, where how can I have a good impact or less of a bad impact in my way of purchasing in this brand. Okay, maybe the type of fabric, trying to not like maybe purchase synthetic fabric, more organic fabric, so it lasts longer. You keep it longer because it doesn't smell as bad when you wear it as well a few times. So it's more as being aware in every ways. That's why I say I'm not always saying don't purchase these things, but then when you do, make sure that at least as well the material and everything are a bit better, so you don't throw it right away in the bin.
yeah.
And for us, the way we do, as Christian said as well, that sometimes it's always thinking about how you can reuse, transform your garment you have already. We do purchase a lot of fashion, but we try as well to be quite conscious in the way we use it or reuse it. I transform a lot of things with my seamstress when I'm done with something, because then I want to change it. I don't want to wear the same thing, but it's still the same garment. Sometimes I cut the sleeve, as you said. I shorten the jacket. I change the neckline, and I
Who's
dye.
your seamstress?
Yes.
Yeah. Or sometimes just changing all the buttons, and then because you take out the buttons, then it looks different. There are so many ways, but
And sometimes it ends up in the store.
Yeah.
When
and
it's fancy enough.
and at the end of the day, when you still go in a physical location, you can try things and do this experimentation in front of a mirror
Yeah, yeah.
of trying things, and you don't have to buy.
Yeah.
You can take quite a few different pieces of different shapes and everything, try and see what seems to be the best. And sometimes, as I've seen young people, you go with a friend that can give you a bit of an advice, what from outside, how does the back look and everything. So I do believe that you can still have a nice experience of shopping physically, trying the things and seeing the colors matching, good for you, yes, no, the shapes, the fabric, instead of buying online, where there is always this risk that it doesn't come the way you expect it to be, and then there is this disappointment, then you send it back, then you have to do it again, your money is blocked for a certain time before they reimbursed and everything, so it's also a bit of a disappointment at the end.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
And Aymeric, tell us about your trip to Japan. How was that? What was inspiring for you?
Everything, because it's so different.
Your first trip there?
Yeah, first trip, not the last, hopefully. What I love the most, I think,
Tokyo
is,
or what?
I went only to Tokyo this time because we wanted to focus more on this area, because I love shopping as well. But I think it was an interesting trip because, first of all, they're very respectful, so I love that. It's very clean, which I love as well. And the third thing is that it was I have the feeling it was so safe that you never ask yourself, oh, am I in a bad area, or should I be worried to be there, even if it's night? Sometimes we ask some people to help us, find our way, and sometimes I give my phone so they can see on my phone, but I'm not feeling that, oh, they will run with my phone. Which in most countries I'll be like, can I show it like this, but I don't want to do it on my phone. And no, I think it's so different from the Western world for sure. But yeah, I loved everything actually. I just want to go back. To be honest, coming back here, I was a bit depressed.
Yeah.
And not because I don't like Perth, but because as well Perth have changed quite a bit in the past years, safety-wise. So I felt so safe and so good in these places that when I came back here, I felt a bit oppressed and like, oh, I have to be careful again.
can you comment on the styles you saw specifically? Was it a certain type of style, or was it just a mix of everything?
So quite, I would say it was quite avant-garde and not so much colors, even though I love colors, but I think nice cuts, and you can see it was like nice materials. I do believe that Japanese people care a lot about the materials and the way it's cut and made. And I was surprised that actually I find men, and with my sister we found that men were actually sometimes better dressed than women.
Okay.
That's the thing I had. And quite sometimes precious as well without being gay or part of the gay community. But and I love the fact that you see that they take some pride into dressing up, men or women, older people or younger people. So I think it was like, yeah, it's a visual experience to just watch it. And even though the fashion is quite different, you cannot be you can only like it, I think, because it's well put together. And
how did it compare to Europe, the European scene in fashion compared to Japan?
I would say in the overall, I had the feeling that probably Japanese are better dressed in the overall. I think it's more uniform in a way, but in their own way, but still being individuals. And I think as well because they dare probably a bit more. Even though in Europe people dare quite a few things, I have the feeling that, again, talking about the men, they dare so much more stuff, not thinking, oh, will it be feminine?
Yeah.
Or is it for a woman? And their fashion is very much unisex as well. Not everything, but a lot of things.
I did notice in Japan, the men are more open to wearing more feminine garments, and I went to Tokyo Fashion Week. I saw Takahiro Yamashita's The Soloist show. He's a Japanese, quite a well-known Japanese designer at Tokyo Museum, and his collection was skirts for men, even like short skirts for men.
I think they were the first one to do that, actually. Part of the first one,
So I thought, they're kind of pushing the boundaries there in Japan, completely. And they're not afraid to do that. So
I don't think for them it's actually, because you're saying pushing the boundaries, I think for us it will be pushing the boundaries, but for them it's normal. As well, probably because part of their traditional way of dressing already, it was quite not androgynous, but
like
neutral.
The samurai
some of the things for women or men were quite similar. Then there is like the accessories that were quite different, but even their hairstyle, when you watch like movie or traditional movies, you can see that they were like so put together. The hairstyle, hairdo, it was not just like cut, but they were like
attention to detail.
Yeah, I think it's quite as well a refined population in the way of presenting themselves. So I think it's part of it as well. You can see that they have a love for things that are aesthetically pleasing, and you can see it on themselves as well. So yeah, that's my experience at least.
Amazing.
Part of it, at least, for what I know now. But I hope to visit other places as well. Yeah.
Okay, and sort of wrapping up now, what are you sort of exploring here at FA Concept? If maybe someone hasn't come into the store before, what do you think you're showcasing here that's sort of different to everywhere else that they might shop for?
First of all, I would say that if you don't want to be in a cookie cutter type of retail space, you can come to visit us. Second of all, I think that we pride ourselves by knowing the history of our pieces, the materials, the brand's history. We do a lot of research, so people sometimes see just pieces like this, but it takes hours sometimes to find which era is from, has it been on the runway, which designer is it from the brand. So yeah, I think for us is as well the experience of sharing our knowledges of what we bring into the store and the time we spend to create our pieces. To compare to some places, everything is fixed by seamstresses if need be. Everything is dry cleaned, clean. Everything that needs to be done is done. Shoes are repaired, bags are repolished. we pride ourselves in providing the best quality we can to people as much as we can with our network and our knowledge. But I think yes, if you want to have this experience of like people that are passionate about what they're doing, that's what we do, and that's the reason why I say we don't do everything. We don't do everything that's on trend like other places, because that's not what we're about. We're about the quality, we're about the history of the brands, and providing the best service possible and having good moments with our clients. Advising on things we think is nice. We believe that sometimes it's nice to lose a sale because you give a good advice, so the people come back because they know you're truthful in what you're saying as well. So being nice, you say in a nice way, but yeah, I think that's what I think.
I believe that over and over I hear people saying that when they come here, they enter like a little bit of a different universe.
Yeah, it's like a different world.
And they feel like it's safe, it's quiet, they don't have to rush. There are lots of information and done on purpose, lots of different areas with many things, and it's not by sections like a lot of retail spaces. So people don't come in because they're looking for something specific, but they want to be surprised. And definitely it's the place to be surprised, because we have so many things that people would not expect, that probably anybody can find a little something that she will cherish. Quite old, not so old, quite new, very unique, maybe a bit less unique, but really going with their personality. And I think that's a little bit the thing that we want to give to people today, is that fashion is something to feel good about yourself, to make you smile every day when you wake up, and then you have to choose some clothes, and maybe you're happy to have a certain colors or a certain type of sunnies or an accessories that makes your day, and people will compliment you. And in Perth, people do compliment a lot, so I think it's quite easy to dare a little bit, and then people will come to you and will always say, where does it come from? It's amazing, we like it very much, cool. And we have seen really people from really different paths giving a lot of compliments on the street. So I think, how can you not say that you feel good when people tell you something positive?
Exactly.
I think it's about, again, probably to finish, it's like we want to help people to feel good in their own skin and find their individual style. So that's what I think we're about as well, and not care about the labels, but care about more, even though we have a lot of like famous labels, but it's more about the cut, making them understand the way it's made. And for me, I'm quite fascinated by, when you see the way certain pieces are stitched together, the way they put the fabrics together, the different panels, and how many pieces are being put together. So I think it's about that as well, and sharing this passion, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. I think just coming into the store, it's like a different world, and there's just so many unique pieces. And then getting to know you guys know the history of each item. I think it's a place that if you're into fashion, especially vintage fashion, you have to come to FA Concept. And I think it's also a place where you can step outside of your comfort zone a little bit. Like for me, I like to wear kind of like more sort of dull colors. I think a lot of people in Perth tend to do that, but the way you guys kind of dress, it's a lot of like expression. So even I think both of you guys styled me today. Normally I'm wearing, I guess, darker, more simple, but I think fashion can change your mood. Like when you go somewhere,
I agree.
and maybe I'm quite a reserved person, but sometimes the clothes can do that, the expression for you. So if you're a reserved person, you can wear something colorful, and you can get the other people reacting to you. You're not really doing much, but it can sort of help you in that way, which has kind of changed my idea of fashion a little bit as well.
I agree with that, and for me, I always say to people, sometimes people think that I'm quite an extrovert, but I'm really more an introvert. And I think probably the fashion is a way of expressing myself. And as you said, and Christian said as well before, that when you dress a certain way, you don't have to do so much effort to go towards people, because most likely they will end up coming towards you if they are a bit intrigued.
Yeah.
And I think it reflects your mood, it reflects the way you feel, it can uplift your mood if you feel bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It sends quite a lot of message. Yeah.
I do believe that sometimes changing a bit your style help you also evolve and find new crowds of people that you want to hang out with, because it's true that when you're always the same, at the end it's the same people are around you, because they're themselves a bit the same. And if you change, then it attracts new people, and then suddenly you discover new possibilities of friendships and interactions, business-wise and everything, because people are interested by you. And it's true that somehow fashion with the trends has uniformized people so much that we are fitting into molds, so somehow we don't have a personality anymore. We could be a number walking in the street and people just don't see you because you're just a number. But because you're a bit different and people accept that we're all unique, and yes, you like jeans and so many other people like jeans, but maybe the jeans that you like is different from another one. So they're still different. And I think you can do a lot in life with this little extra to make you feel better and have compliments and have people around you happy because you're happy.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Christian and Aymeric, for coming on. It's been amazing to chat, and really appreciate that.
Thanks to you. It was nice to discuss with you.
Yeah, we had really
exchange on different topics.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Thank you so much.
Where can people find you online, or maybe they want to come and check out the store?
So they can find us online on FA Concept. So we have different business under the umbrella of FA Concept, but FA Concept Vintage if you want to visit the vintage store. And the store is in the city, number 10, Pierre Street. And yes, you'll find us below Azar Studio, I guess, from Tuesday to Saturday.